Starting. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How are you? You are now watching or listening to Niko and Holly live on MCSC Network. I hope you all missed me because I missed y'all. I've been out personally for a while, but apparently Holly has been holding down the fort. What's going on, Holly?
Hey, thanks for having me on again, and I'm glad we're doing another show this week.
Oh, of course, of course. Thanks for all the positive feedback, by the way, from everybody. You all were super engaged, and a lot of people have like reached out saying y'all have to do another show together. Well, I don't know if y'all knew, but that was our plan anyway. Our intention was to do a show every Wednesday. Yesterday, I was dealing with some personal stuff, so we couldn't do it, but we are back today. We are going to try to lock down a time so that you all know where to meet us at every Wednesday when we go live. But I guess before we get started, a lot of people are curious as to where I have been at. So I can't go into all the details, but essentially I was put in the hospital by Miami PD. They dislocated my shoulder, tore my rotator cuff when I was trying to prevent a fight from happening. And so, that's where I was at. This isn't the first time it's happened to me. Probably, unfortunately, will not be the last. And we can go on all the details about why it happened. But like I said, this is my third or fourth altercation with police officers in the last 7 years. If you see this tooth right here, this is actually a cap. No, this one. It's a cap on my tooth for when I was assaulted in Greenville, North Carolina, where the cops actually held me down and beat me in the face with a baton. And that's how my tooth got cracked. So like I said, it's probably won't be, unfortunately for me, it won't be the last time it happens. But I am okay. I'm recovering. A lot of people have been asking. And so I really appreciate everyone reaching out. It's nice to know that I had all support. I was in the hospital. A lot of people had contacted me and reached out. And a lot of people contacted me when they found out I got out. So thank you all so much for that. But with that being said, Holly, you broke some big news about Seth Rich this morning. You want to go ahead and cover that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you're back, Niko, and you're a busy guy and you just kept at it. That could put a lot of people out of commission for a while, and you're just right back in the game. So I'm glad we're back to making another episode. And yeah, so yesterday, the Seth Rich case, 2 interesting lawsuits were filed this week. One was from the parents of Seth Rich. Joel and Mary Rich this week filed a lawsuit against Fox News. They are saying it's over a retracted article. They're saying that Fox News was promoting the fact or the belief, let me rephrase that, promoting the strong belief that Seth Rich was the leaker to WikiLeaks and he provided information about the DNC. And Joel and Mary Rich are suing, saying that it's lying. They're going into civil court. So that's the first case that was filed this week. And then the second case is by Ty Clevenger. He's filing a federal lawsuit against the FBI and the DOJ, seeking records on the Seth Rich case. So he's going through a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, and trying to find out what happened with the Seth Rich murder investigation.
So, I guess my first question to you would be, do you believe that it's actually the family filing the lawsuit?
See, that's an interesting perspective, because the case is not only is it a civil case going against Fox News, it is specifically requesting a jury trial, and we will go into fact finding when this happens. So information such as security cameras from the police, cameras.
Hold on. Which case, the FOIA case or the civil suit from the family?
So the civil, both could go into fact finding. But specifically the Seth Rich, their parents are requesting a jury trial. So it could be a different sort of circumstances. I know they're going after Fox News because they're saying that they were lying about Seth Rich and his involvement with WikiLeaks. So I don't really know. I'm confused, honestly.
Well, I guess the first step would be finding out what date the original lawsuit was filed. So if we know, what does it say, what day the family filed their lawsuit?
It says that this came out.
Because the reason I ask is it could be a retaliatory, reactionary distraction, because the speaker of the family, I always forget his name. What, Brad Bowman? That's his name.
Yeah.
He's always had a habit of pretending as if the family is speaking about, any fact about the case, and it's not the family. If you listen to them speak and then compare that to the letters that have been sent out to various media outlets, it's clear that it's not the family speaking. It's well-tailored, PR rhetoric where they don't actually assert that anything like that, for example, Rod Wheeler was saying was wrong. They don't outright call him a liar. What they say is that he wasn't authorized to make those statements, which is not the same thing. But what they are doing, however, is preventing a lawsuit, or at least they thought they were preventing a lawsuit from Rod Wheeler. And Rod did end up having to sue Fox News, but he's not even suing Fox News. He's suing Fox News because of something the local television station did, where they misrepresented his words. And so, but Bowman clearly was, because he's a crisis manager. Like, that's what he does. He's a crisis guy for the Democratic Party. And so the reason I think the dates are important is because if the dates fall, if the FOIA request was filed first, then this could be a countersuit in order to distract from the fact that there was a FOIA case filed, and to have the news talking about the fact that, once again, the family wants you to leave it alone, blah, 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 and totally resulting in the total, ignoring of the FOIA suit. So that's what I'm curious about.
So it looks like both were filed on Wednesday, which was yesterday, the 14th. It doesn't say what time, so you're right about that. In the case, the Seth Rich family case is specifically going after Malia Zimmerman, a reporter from Fox, and a regular Fox guest, Ed Batowski. And they're saying that Batowski met with Sean Spicer. This is what Rod Wheeler is saying. And then the White House press secretary to discuss the investigation into Seth Rich's death before the story was published. So they're saying that Batowski took advantage of their grief. And, who knows? Yeah, it could be Brad Bowman, the PR Democratic Party crisis organizer.
To be totally honest with you, why not file it earlier if you felt this way? Because Rod Wheeler filed his case against the local Fox News station. It wasn't because of that. It was because they kind of threw him under the bus. And so he wanted to kind of recollect his name. He wasn't even in like TYT and other outlets tried to make it seem as if Rod Wheeler was suing Fox News because of how they reported the Seth Rich story. But Fox News, which I can't believe I'm saying this, actually didn't report it wrong. Like the Fox News, the big company, they didn't report it wrong. It was the local station that reported it wrong. But requesting a jury trial in a civil suit is utterly ridiculous. And it's not going to happen. And that's why I say it's a smokescreen. No judge is like, oh, they hurt my feelings. Let's request a jury trial for them hurting my feelings.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if this is just a way, if they can get a settlement out of Fox or something. I mean, who knows?
But even still, though, the family didn't request Brad Bowman to be attached to them. They just kind of jumped on. He just jumped on their coattails and started controlling everything they said. And we haven't seen the family personally speak outside of his brother, that whole situation's weird. But outside of the brother, we haven't seen the family speak in person at all. So it's hard for me to believe that they can file a suit in the same day and get the media coverage for it in the same day as a FOIA request was filed in the same day. A federal FOIA request was filed, and then you coincidentally file a suit in the same exact day. That's not a coincidence. It seems like it's a reactionary move, because if the conversation is just about the FOIA and that's all the news has to report on, because Brad Bowman, he works hand in hand and side by side with CNN, MSNBC, all the leftist establishment media conglomerates. And so if that conversation is only about the FOIA, then people are going to dig about what? The FOIA. But they're going to wonder why the documents are even being held. They're going to want to know why the investigation hasn't been pursued as it should. And that's going to be the conversation that everybody has. And then you got to start. And then as Brad Bowman, as a PR guy, as a crisis manager, then he's going to be requested, or the family's going to be requested, to go on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and explain all these things and explain how they feel about the fact that the case hasn't been pursued to the degree it should have been and should be being pursued right now. And I don't think he wants to deal with that. I think they're like, hell no, we're going to change the conversation immediately. He doesn't expect this to go through at all.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if this ever went to fact finding, or, you know, they, like you said, got a jury over a civil case. I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, like, especially over a hurt feelings case. Like, this is a hurt feelings case. Like, I don't even know what they're actually requesting it for. Like, what's the lawsuit about? Like, I know they just want to sue Fox News because they're upset of a conversation that they had. Pretty much.
Yeah. They just said that he was lying about, you know, his death. Butowski and specifically Malia Zimmerman suggested that Seth Rich provided information about the Democratic National Committee in emails to WikiLeaks in 2016.
See, and that's a hard, man. He could be trying to drive out Julian Assange too. He could be trying to do that, but I don't think that's it. I don't think that's what he wants to do, because that would totally kill the Democratic Party if Julian Assange actually came out and said everything he wants to say. But they do have a habit of not revealing sources, even though he's pretty much said everything. But yeah, absolutely, he was the leaker. But yeah, that's the only thing I could see them doing outside of just trying to draw a smokescreen. That's what I think that's about.
They're suing about Malia Zimmerman wrote an article in Fox News that said Seth Rich, slain DNC staffer, had contact with WikiLeaks, says multiple sources, and they quoted Rod Wheeler.
Yeah, well, that's what it's. That's not a lie though. Multiple sources did say that the former ambassador for that, he was a UK. He was in the UK. He was an ambassador for one of the Eastern European countries, but he was also a representative of WikiLeaks. And he said that Seth Rich had made contact with WikiLeaks. Kim.com said the same thing. Julian Assange pretty much said the same thing. And Rod Wheeler has his sources that said, you know, he had the FBI, the cops. I mean, the very candid interview he had, and I'm not sure if he knew he was being recorded, but it got on the internet anyway, when he talks about this. So multiple sources did say that. And it doesn't take really much research to find out that multiple sources, and I would say multiple sources that would be an authority on that type of thing, did say that. So and they know that. They know they can't win the case, because you have to prove without a shadow of a doubt that somebody that absolutely no one involved in this situation or had any authority to speak on Seth Rich or his relationship with Julian Assange or WikiLeaks. You don't have to assume that you have to prove that nobody had any contact with Seth Rich, and nobody said that about Seth Rich and Julian Assange. That's a fucking ridiculous argument to make, that you're not going to win, but you're requesting a jury trial over something you can easily Google.
Yeah, so you just reminded me, I actually did a video on this a long time ago, but you mentioned Craig Murray, and he was the former British ambassador to Uzbekistan and a close associate of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. So he's the one who said that, you know, Seth Rich was involved with leaking the information. Yeah.
And he said that he wasn't the first guy that gave them information from the FBI or the DNC or any political party. He wasn't the last one. He even went on to talk about where he meets them at in DC. That park, I can't remember the name of the park.
Yeah.
He was talking, so he gave a lot of detail. So like I said, it's a ridiculous. I just hate them. I hate Brad Bowman. I hate the DNC. They're so stupid. But I mean, the only reason they could be so stupid about how they go about things is because there are stupid people who believe them. That's the scary part.
Yeah, great point.
If it didn't work to a degree, you know, like it's when it comes to the one flaw. No, it's not the one flaw in our legal system, but one of the most glaring flaws in our legal system is the fact that there seems to be no expedition on important issues when it matters, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
it's
Go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems like when I looked up the Seth Rich case this morning, the only time mainstream news wants to cover the Seth Rich case at all is like, you know, when his parents are suing Fox News. So this is the first time I've really seen NPR pick up on the story at all. So it's kind of interesting. It's like you said, it's only because people are refusing to take a look at the evidence for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I would even say NPR had a chance to cover the story, by the way, in case nobody knew this. Somebody connected me to NPR. I actually talked on it was one of their sub shows, and I can't remember the name of the show. But it was one of their like sub shows, and they had a chance. I mean, this is a big story, so I'm sure that they talked about it because they called me about this. They called me about the DNC fraud lawsuit. They called and we talked about the DNC fraud lawsuit. We talked about Sean Lucas. We talked about Seth Rich. And he was extremely interested in covering the story. But at the same time, I know personally, because I know how those networks work, I'm like, you may be interested in covering this and you could believe everything I'm saying, but your editor-in-chief is not going to let you push it. I'm not an idiot, you know, and it wasn't even a knock against him. It's just I understand how that system works. So essentially, they had a chance to cover it and they didn't even touch it. And this is the first time that they're talking about it, but it's literally only to talk about the fact that the family is suing Fox News.
Yeah, it says conspiracy theory, like within the first sentence, you know, of the article.
It's a conspiracy theory that the cops, that the chief of police literally stepped down because of how corrupt that police department was regarding Seth Rich case. It's a conspiracy theory that the chief of the DC Metro Police came out and countered every single mainstream narrative they claimed that, oh, it was a botched robbery, but she said it was absolutely not a botched robbery. There's nothing that shows us that this is a botched robbery. I don't know where the fuck y'all are getting that from. Like, and they pretend like that shit didn't happen. Like she didn't just step down because of the corruption, that she didn't say that. Like it's nothing conspiratorial about it. It's look at what the people are saying who are involved in this case. And look who either gets fired, look who steps down, look at the fact that we didn't get any type of surveillance footage until way later. And even still, that's like grainy and granulated. And we haven't seen anything clear. And they're pretending like that's the only footage we can get in the most surveilled town in the country. Right. Then they tried to convince us that, oh, that's just a bad part of town. So it's always. And then we find out from a local. I don't know if you ever saw that video, but a local came out and said, yeah, this is actually a very big surprise. We haven't had any type of crime here in like the last 70 years. I've lived here for the most part, most of my life. We've never had any crime. So I'm like, that's counter to the narrative that they just tried to feed us. Like, oh, it's normal there. Right. Because that's what a top DNC staffer would live at in the area where there's high crime. That makes perfect sense. So yeah, that's bullshit.
They were even trying to convince local businesses and restaurants to put up security cameras in the area. Like it was a whole movement in that part of town. Like you said, it's completely surveilled. The police would have body cameras. You know, I know there's information about his autopsy that still hasn't come out. Like the whole thing is just like very strange.
Yeah, it's the same way I feel about Pizzagate. It doesn't matter if you believe in Pizzagate or if you don't believe in Pizzagate. What I have an issue with like the Seth Rich case, the Pizzagate case, the corruption within the Clinton Foundation, the war, almost any issue that involves like direct corruption with like a quid pro quo-esque type of deal going on. Like if you know who J. Cole is, J. Cole's a rapper. He's from Fayetteville. We actually went to rival high schools. We were both in the AG program, funny enough. But but in all seriousness, he's a famous rapper. He got tired of living in like the big city life, so he actually moved to Georgia in a country house where he would not be bothered and his family wouldn't be bothered. The problem with that is it's still the South. And so because he had dreads and he had like the Rastafarian dreads, and he's black and he has nice cars and his house is the biggest one on the block because he's a rapper. He has cars going in and out because he gets, producers come over, his friends come over, beat makers come over. They thought that he was selling drugs. He actually has a song called The Neighbors Think I'm Selling Dope. And it's about how the cops ran into his house because they thought he was selling drugs. That means they started an entire investigation. They monitored his house. because he had dreads and he had cars coming out of his driveway, and people were like, oh my God, we think he's selling drugs. There's no way he can afford this house because we don't know who he is. And they thought that that was worth an investigation. And then they thought that it was even worth running into his fucking house. So what you're telling me is, despite all of the evidence we have for all these other issues, it doesn't even warrant an investigation. And the fact that anybody who talks about an investigation is ridiculed, that makes me even more suspicious. That makes me think that we really should be investigating this because y'all already started investigating it and y'all know that there's something up. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tempered optimism that, you know, this is at least it's being kept in the news.
Yeah. Because then that's how we knew, that's how we're able to keep up with it and talk about it and kind of remind people who are just now looking into this, like what's going on and what's happening. So that's the best part. If there is any silver lining, that would be it, because there are always newer people who they just, I guess, you know, they see it in the past and and then they're finally like, oh, I wonder what this is about. And they click on the other video that isn't CNN, which is usually one of ours, and they get their eyes open really fast. But
yeah, and also people are like, wow, it's, you know, it's been a couple years almost, you know, and it still hasn't gone away.
Yeah,
maybe there's something to this.
Yeah, and I'm happy. I'm actually happy that it hasn't gone away. A lot of other things that we pretty much we started covering during the election. So, but moving on to our next topic, there has been some breaking news. I don't know if you all. Well, I have an iPhone, so I get and I have every damn news app you can think of. But the Mueller has subpoenaed Trump and his organization, and apparently some of the documents that are subpoenaed have to do with Russia. It was actually reported by CNN. And do I believe any of it? I mean, do I believe it's something to actually worry about? Well, I'm gonna read the article and I'll let you all determine from there how worried we should be. Which is, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. No, it's nothing, literally nothing. But hey, the Times, citing 2 people briefed on the matter, said that the subpoena was delivered in recent weeks and is a request for Trump's business to turn over documents related to Russia and other topics of the special counsel investigation. The report is that the first publicly known time that Mueller, the report is the first publicly known time that Mueller has demanded documents related to Trump's business, which I don't think is true. No, I don't think that's true. But anyway, neither the White House officials nor a lawyer representing the Trump organization immediately responded to the Times request for comment. Trump has repeatedly railed against the investigation and denied any wrongdoing. Last year, Trump said that he would view any investigation of his or his family's personal finances as a violation by Mueller that crosses a red line, which I actually agree with, crazy enough. I think that the investigation into his finances and how he conducted his finances while he's president is a legitimate target. Anything that he did before he was president is not Mueller's business. If you want to make it somebody's business, it's the FBI's business. But how do you feel about that? And I'll go ahead and explain what I think about that bullshit.
There, even the New York Times is admitting that Mueller is going forward with a subpoena, and why he's not just straight up asking for the documents from Trump's business. So New York Times says the breadth of the subpoena was not clear, nor is it clear why Mr. Mueller issued it instead of simply asking for the documents from the company, an umbrella organization that oversees Trump's business ventures.
Yeah. Nobody is. It's Mueller, people. You know, it's Mueller. If you wanted to, there's a few things that you could have did if you wanted this investigation over and solved. Like if you wanted an actual solution versus dragging this out for as long as humanly possible. 1, ask the DNC to turn over their servers. Boom. We would have known the answer to all of our questions right then and there. Right? So that was one thing you could have did. 2, why didn't you if these documents are indeed important, why not request them at the beginning of the investigation, considering it belongs to the company of the person that you're supposedly investigating? That's like the first thing you do when you investigate somebody. Like when I was investigating the DNC and all of Hillary Clinton's super PACs, I didn't go, well, you know what? Hey, Let's see what Martin O'Malley's doing. Let's go talk to that guy. And I bet we'll get a lot of answers out of him about what the hell is going on with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders' campaign. That makes no damn sense. The guy is clearly not actually trying to investigate anybody. He's just trying to prolong the investigation, not necessarily because of the Democrats. I believe that it's because of the whether you want to call it the deep state or the shadow government. I would probably say this is the shadow government. And that's why they don't want Trump in power. And Mueller and Comey and all these people are friends. Now, Mueller himself isn't at any personal risk. Like, he's not going to go to jail, but Comey perjured himself. Comey should be in jail. Comey lied under oath. He, clearly was and Andrew McCabe was clearly participating in quid pro quo behavior, right?
Exactly.
His wife was receiving money directly from Clinton and her little Clintonites. And while he was conducting the email investigation, and then wife still receiving money, and Comey being personal friends with McCabe, and then Comey being personal friends with the CEO of CrowdStrike, and Comey and McCabe both being personal friends with Robert Mueller, and Comey being representing the Clinton Foundation to some degree, or being part of the Clinton Foundation to some degree. Like, y'all should be in jail. Wow. If you ever wonder what the definition of conspiracy is, that actually is conspiracy. Like, a conspiracy to obstruct a federal investigation, like what they did with the email scandal, a conspiracy to obstruct a federal investigation, like what they're doing right now with the Russiagate scandal, that actually is a crime. I know it sounds crazy for some neoliberals to believe, but yeah, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and Robert Mueller should all be in jail.
It's just so strange. Like you're saying, like, neoliberals, they need to start using that term more, because it's like, I didn't vote for Trump. I pretty much never defend him in anything that he does as president, but I feel like I have to say, that it's like, remind people that I didn't vote for Trump just because I'm calling out the hypocrisy that's going on in Washington.
Yeah.
And the fact that CNN even admitted, they said that these documents were given out way back in January. So why is he waiting to subpoena until now? CNN says that the Trump organization gave the Russia-related documents to Mueller in Capitol Hill. This came out January 4th. So this is the same thing.
So I wasn't crazy. They were like, it's the first time that he requested the documents from the company, and I was like, that's not true. I distinctively remember them making a big deal about it before. So I don't like the fact that CNN can straight lie. If you or I did that as independent journalists, holy shit, like, we would be laughed off of the internet. People would ridicule us, and people would say we couldn't be taken seriously. YouTube would block or ban our videos. Like,
oh yeah,
there would be so many consequences. But when they do it, it's like,
I mean, for better or for worse, our viewers definitely hold our feet to the fire,
Which I like. I would rather have that, because it means that they're actively engaged in paying attention to what they're being told. Whereas a lot of viewers for like CNN or MSNBC that are hardcore viewers, it's like they're going there for to be petted, I just want to know or believe that everything that I think to be true is true, and that everybody mostly believes that. And as long as that's the case, then I don't care what they tell me. And because it makes them comfortable. But and I'm not a Trump fan, and it makes me very uncomfortable when I don't necessarily have to defend him, but I do have to call out people and because of what I just said, like the clear conflict of interest, for example. Like, does that mean if Trump has some money laundering issues that I don't want him dealt with? No. But what I am saying is that if we're going to have an investigation into that, it should not be surrounded and shrouded and really have a distraction from that because by the Russiagate issue, because it's a non-issue. It's a nothing burger was what they like to call it. It's a non-issue, and we're wasting time and taxpayer dollars and time and other people's time. Like, what the fuck are we paying y'all for? Mueller, and I swear to God, if Mueller's getting paid for this, I'm gonna be pissed.
I think he is.
Man, that's like, man, I can't believe you getting paid to. It's like the guy that gets paid to go to work and all he does is sit there and just kind of puts his feet up on the desk, and then he just chills and, hey, sir, what do you want us to do? Go on break. Just go on break. Don't stop bothering me. Right. And then whenever somebody walks up to him like, hey, what have you done? And then he just pulls up a random document that has nothing to do with anything. And it's like, yeah, I've been working hard out here. You know, that's what Mueller reminds me of, because he's not doing anything. It's like one day he wakes up on a whim and just decides, shit, I haven't said anything in the last 3 weeks. People are forgetting. I might lose my job. So let me just say some shit. And that's what happens.
Yeah, he's basically dredging up paperwork that was already provided back in January. So like you brought up with the Seth Rich case, you know, why are they dropping this now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is it a couple months later that this is all in the news?
Exactly. And for those of you who don't know, there's been a lot of developments in the Russiagate scandal, if you will. The Senate Judiciary Committee just said there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever, which is actually a bigger deal than what you would think, because there are some people on that committee who are like very much so, I don't want to say pro Russiagate investigation, but they were very liberal about their involvement with trying to remove Mueller from that investigation, because they said they didn't want any backlash and things like that. But they all concluded that there was no proof, which I feel like was pretty obvious in the beginning. But hey, they let the investigation take its course from the Senate Judiciary side, and they did their job. Even I still remember whenever Tucker Carlson asked Adam Schiff, can you look the American people in the eye and say that there is conclusive evidence that Russia's government did hack the election? He couldn't even say it because he knew it wasn't true. And they tried to pretend like it was true. So there's that. So then the other thing that happened, this is like a super high petty level, by the way. And they're trying to say like it wasn't Trump. They're trying to say it was Jeff Sessions who was thinking about firing him. But no, I'm pretty sure it's Trump, because Trump has been on the fucking firing spree over the last 2 or 3 days. But Trump or Sessions is about to fire Andrew McCabe before his retirement so he doesn't collect his pension.
Burn.
Oh, man. My friend was like, oh, man, that petty level is on 1,000. That is like super petty. And if anything, he should be happy he's not going to jail with the stuff that he's pulled. So like with the text messages that came out about him, like, bro, you pretty much tried to start a mutiny. And I'm pretty sure that's called treason. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that's treasonous. Like, and it's not like we need to figure out if, maybe we should go on an investigation. No, we did the investigation. Remember, all the text messages came out. You tried to start a mutiny, and you're not, you should be very happy you're not in jail, let alone worried about collecting a pension. So there's that. Then there's the fact that this Russian spy died. For those of you who don't know that story, because they're trying to make it, of course, seem like Russia did it. Russia was the country that released it from jail. That spy was a double agent for Great Britain. And they arrested him, obviously, because he was spying on them. They released him. Why would they then kill him? That makes no sense. He already gave all the secrets that he knew at the time to Great Britain. He didn't know anything else. He was banned from the country. And in case you were wondering, Theresa May, first thing she did, yeah, it was Russia. We're pretty sure Russia did it. And it was almost the exact same rhetoric as the U.S. has been using. And it's almost like they're trying to scapegoat somebody, if anybody, because they're losing their grip. There's no more conflicts to fight. Nobody believes in the bullshit in the Middle East anymore. You can't rally behind that. Nobody believes that you're actually going into Syria to help the country. Nobody believes that you were in Iraq to help them anymore. Nobody believes in the government's clearly fallacious support in Israel and giving them $70 billion of our tax dollars while our kids and our women and children and people can't get jobs. And we are claiming that we don't have the money or the infrastructure to give single payer healthcare, but we just give $70 billion like that to another country that has nothing to do with us. Like, nobody believes it anymore. So the one thing that they figure would work is if we just keep making Russia the enemy, because that's the one thing that has scared everybody because of how many nuclear weapons they have. But hey, if all this is happening, by the way, you don't see much news about it. But of course, like I said, he subpoenas Trump about documents that he already has, and it's all on CNN just like that.
Yeah, so you brought up some great points. So you said on Monday, the U.S. House Intelligence Committee announced that they had done an investigation into claims of collusion between President Trump and the Russian state. And they said that we found no collusion, coordination, or conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. So they're going to get a full report coming forward. So that's the House Intelligence Agency who did the report. And then you brought up the Russian exile and who was associated. He, like you said, he had defected and was living in London. He was his name was Glushkov, and he was found in his London home. It appears that he suffocated. He was a prominent opponent of the Kremlin. And he spent 5 years in jail in Russia before escaping to the UK. And then he was the director of Aeroflot, a state airline. And then he deflected and was living in London.
So, but yeah, he didn't really defect because he was already a double agent, if I recall. Like he was a double agent. Good like that's why he got initially arrested. Yeah, but he did escape to London. But like, it's very hard to convince me that Russia is going to go into the UK and poison somebody. Like that's like I don't even understand how the hell that would happen. What it seems like is somebody who understands UK houses, knows exactly where the guy lives, knows exactly how to get into an apartment like that. You know, like knows his schedule, so it has had to have been there for a while. Who understands like to poison some? Like, if somebody's like, "Hey, go poison this guy in Russia," I don't know how I would even start that process, bro. How am I gonna get there? Where am I staying? Am I staying in the hotel? When I leave, like, wouldn't I have records of myself staying in that hotel, so I become immediately a suspect? Like, you know, who it's like way too many factors involved, in my opinion. If you're gonna have someone from Russia who is clearly Russian go to the UK, specifically in London, and poison a spy who is probably, you know, if he encounters somebody who is Russian, or if it would have to be somebody who is really experienced, in my opinion. And I think Great Britain poisoned him. I think that Great Britain poisoned him, and they're using like we know for a fact that we hacked our own elections, like, but we scapegoat to Russia. So I think the same thing. I think that the West wants to make sure that we have a constant war going on, because that's the only way that they can justify this ridiculous military spending budget and you know the persistence of this military industrial complex bullshit.
Yeah, you're right. When the article I was reading that said that he defected was The Guardian. So it's kind of funny that, you know, this is how London News is reporting it. But they're also saying that you're right. He was close friends with the oligarch Boris Berezovsky, who was definitely poisoned and found in his London home as well.
So it's like I said, so the fact that this subpoena comes out and you hear about a lot of stuff in breaking news, and somebody else had to tell me about that this guy was poisoned, and apparently that actually ignited Trump, I think, passing sanctions on Russia, which is weird, but whatever, you know, we'll figure out how that goes in the long run. I think it's stupid. I don't know if the sanctions are serious though, and they're likely not that serious, but it's hard to, it's because like they pretty much just exonerated Russia. Like the Senate Judiciary Committee, or the House Intelligence Committee, excuse me, just exonerated them. And then they're like, oh yeah, but clearly they poisoned this guy to keep him from talking about it, so let's give sanctions to Russia. But it's like, you just said that there was no evidence, and now you're backtracking and saying that there's evidence, but there's no evidence of anything. It's just fucking reactionary, emotional, let's see if we can get a rise out of people bullshit. I hate it so much. It's so dangerous.
And I think when people see that, you know, we see these different factions, you know, we have to remember that Russia is like the United States. You know, we have different factions in the US. Like, we don't obviously all agree together. There are people in Russia who are trying to get rid of Putin, and people who are working with Putin, and who knows, you know, Trump could be playing hardball. You know, Obama had, of course, closed one of the embassies and kicked out a bunch of Russian ambassadors in the past. So it's like we've been playing this game for a while. And like you said, you know, doing this proxy war in our last video, we're involved with proxy wars with Russia right now, whether people like to admit it or not. in Syria. So,
That's
we
exactly
can
what it is.
exactly, we can joke about how this stuff seems bizarre and funny, but there's something bigger at play here.
Yeah, much, much bigger. And it seems like it's like I said, people get mad at me, but y'all can want to scapegoat Putin all you want to, like he's the worst guy in the world. I'm not an idiot. Putin was part of KGB. He's not innocent, but to pretend as if he is like absolutely worse than any leader that we've ever had is laughable. They're like, oh, well, what about all the racist things he said? Oh, okay. I mean, I just hate to break it to y'all, but like, yeah, you look at the guy we have in office. So, I mean, and I don't know if he actually said anything racist. I know he's passed some potentially racist policies, but I mean, it's like being racist in Russia is kind of a hard sell. They're all white. I've never met a black Russian in my life. So I know he's been like somewhat anti-LGBTQ. I don't know, once again, if y'all remember this, but literally until like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, that was every single president in the United States. Literally. You're out of all the presidents in the United States, maybe 2, maybe 3. And that's like being nice because I might have forgot somebody. We're white supremacists. And at least everyone except for maybe 2 were racist as hell. People say, oh, what about FDR? Internment camps, people put everybody who had these kind of eyes. It was like, oh, you squinting? You're Japanese? Go to the internment camp. Like that happened. Like, remember during the apartheid, we fought against Nelson Mandela. Like, we were trying to condemn Fidel Castro. We still had Jim Crow. People forget this. I don't know how people forget this so quickly, but like to pretend that Putin is uniquely worse when he's been in his little bubble, he ain't invaded no countries. He crept up on Ukraine, but people don't know that there was a reason for that. It's because Ukrainian oligarchs partnered up with the EU, the United States, and China and tried to blackball Russia out of trade by getting cheap products from China and essentially violating like any type of deal they had in the past, which would have totally screwed Russia's economy. Now, if I'm the president of Russia, yeah, you're going to have to come up off that because I'm responsible for my country's national security and national interests. So at that point, especially if you're working with our enemies, that's a problem. And I have to take action. And we take action for far less, And Putin even said himself the other day, he said, when we make a military exercise, it's looked at as a threat of war, whereas literally America will go to a country and bomb them and nothing happens. People just pretend like it's normal. So
yeah, great points. And I think the fact that this Russia is falling apart with like all the Russian bots and like the memes that they said, swayed the election and Russian troll farms. I mean, I'm just wondering how long mainstream news is going to try to push this,
Look, I think that they're gonna push it to the limit. I think that they're gonna try to push it for as long as they possibly can. And it's like I think I said this on the last episode. It's never been about actually getting Trump impeached. It's about the idea that Trump is under impeachment during an election season. It's never been about solving the Russiagate investigation. It's always been about investigating Trump during the election season. It's always been about controlling the narrative during the election. They don't want the mass shooting. They don't want a solution to gun violence. They want the conversation to be about gun violence during the election season so that after it's over and they think the Democrats are going to win, even though I heard they just lost a huge race, right? They lost a huge one. I can't remember what race it was, but they just lost a huge race that should have been easily winnable. And then like look because this is why I want you all to remember something. Remember how huge a victory it was that Doug Jones won, bro. He has not done. In fact, he's done the total opposite of not doing shit. He's done everything that the neoliberals asked him to, and then some. He's already caught up in monetary scandals already. But y'all are like, it's important because the Democratic Party is the party of the people. Did he already vote with the Republicans like on several issues already? Like nothing's going to change. But what they don't want you to discuss is how nothing's going to change. No matter which party you vote for the most part. There are progressives running in the Democratic Party, but they're being blackballed by their own party. There are Green Party members running, but the problem with that is they're being blackballed by everybody. The Libertarian Party being blackballed by everybody. They don't want you to discuss how to make parties viable. They don't want you to discuss single-payer healthcare. They don't want you to discuss the issues that need to be discussed. They don't want you to discuss Seth Rich. They don't want you to discuss Tom Lucas. They don't want you to discuss the DNC fraud lawsuit. They don't want you to discuss any. They don't want you to discuss the Clinton Foundation. They don't want you to discuss anybody that disappeared because of the Clinton Foundation. These are huge, like, life-defining, empire-defining issues. They don't want to discuss the fact that a CIA agent had just come out and spilled all of the beans and is going on a tour right now, spilling all the beans about what the CIA is, about the shadow government, you know. And he was talking like, he even educated me. I thought I knew a little bit. He was educating hell out of me. He was, the shadow government and deep state isn't the same thing, although sometimes they intersect. They're not necessarily the same thing. Like, going into everything. That should be mainstream news until you remember, as he points out, like, for example, Silicon Valley, 95% of Silicon Valley is bought off by the CIA. Every single mainstream news organization. Oh, yeah, that's why. How do you think Facebook just suddenly jumped ahead of everybody? You have to have the money to do that. That's the only thing that can really separate you when you get to that level. Like, you didn't just jump randomly ahead of MySpace because you were just so much smarter than Tom. Like, no, I like my 8 friends. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I did like my top 8 friends. Caused a lot of drama, though. A lot of drama. Yeah. Like, a lot of high school relationships ended because of the top 8 friends. Okay. But that's how, because Washington Post, why Jeff Bezos, like, I love Amazon Prime, but eventually, if I ever become well off enough, fuck Amazon Prime. This man's talking about getting into your bank account at some point. Like, the dude is worth 100+ billion, people. He is worth more than Bill Gates. He hasn't even been on this planet for 20. He's been on the planet for like 20 years less than Bill Gates. And he's somehow worth more, than almost twice as much as Bill Gates, who literally pretty much invented the internet, it seems like. Like, you know, nobody should have $126 billion. You're not a good person, in my opinion, if you are able to get 100, because that means you're not spending it on any world. You could end world hunger by yourself. You could end world hunger by yourself. You have $126 billion. And now you're opening up stores. You're pretty much killing the only good thing I would say that came from Amazon Prime, which is probably one of the best parts about actual capitalism or actual free market, not this bullshit that they portray as capitalism, is the fact that you end up putting, like, for example, I would have never been able to afford half the things I use for my equipment before. I would never be able to afford them in the store. But because of Amazon Prime making everything so cheap, now he had to deal with my ass talking about them. Right. Thanks for all the equipment, though, and I appreciate the 2-day shipments. But but that's what real capitalism is. It legitimately creates competition and it legitimately holds businesses accountable. But what Jeff Bezos is participating in is not actual capitalism. Why do you own Washington Post? Why were you accepting $600 million from the CIA? I don't get it. You're 126 billion. You can kill somebody by saying that shit loud enough. 126 billion. That's a gun. That's a billion. Bop, 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 billion. That's what you. And people are so curious. Oh, I don't understand. What's the big deal? What's the big deal about Jeff Bezos? Like, the dude is in everything. That's wrong. It's wrong. It's not okay. $126 billion.
We need to understand that, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're not busting up monopolies. I mean, we're talking about like the Gilded Age again, like they're going to own everything.
And it's funny because people haven't been paying attention, but like cryptocurrency, like if you don't believe in it, you're an idiot, because the moment that a Wall Street person comes out and says, oh, that's the worst thing ever, it's never going to go anywhere. You believe that shit? Their jobs depend on that shit not going anywhere. And they're telling you it's never going anywhere. Like, we should see how it develops. Because that's the right answer, is we don't know. They said that Google wasn't going anywhere either. They also said the same thing about Amazon. They also said the same thing about MacBook computers. I mean, the list kind of goes on. Facebook was too boring at one point. These things, like, they said that about everything. But guess what? I bet you didn't know that JP Morgan just started investing in blockchain technology. Wow. Bet you didn't know that. Yeah, so that means guess who's going to have a Chase bank account with some damn cryptocurrency available to transfer in and probably make into cash. That's right. But you think that's being talked about? No, because by the time it's finally talked about, guess who will have a monopoly on cryptocurrency in the US?
Yep. Now's the time to get it from what I've heard. So price is going to go up, like you said, once the big banks get their fingers on it. So that's how it goes.
And I'm really curious to figure out what, as far as cryptocurrency is concerned, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the war, like profiteering, because the reason, if you all don't know, I know that there's some people out there that convince you that our dollar is just sovereign. It's just supported by thin air and high hopes. And that's not the case. We're on a petrodollar. Like, you don't have oil, you don't have dollar. Like, that's how it works. Why do you think that China is okay with us never paying them back? Why do you think we put Venezuela on the Muslim ban list, which made no sense, but they were on the Muslim ban list when they decided to switch off of the petrodollar? The same reason that we've been in the Middle East, lying about why we've been there forever. And it's funny because remember back in the day, if you said that this is just about oil, there have been people saying that was only about oil, and it seemed like an oversimplification. It really did. It seemed like, and it turned out, nope, that was literally it. It was about oil. They were right. Since the 90s, late 80s, it was always about oil. It was always about resources, because when we left the gold standard, they never actually told people what we were backed by next. But when we left the gold standard, which I believe FDR did, and then who was right after FDR? Jimmy Carter, right? And I want to say it was Jimmy Carter. I think it was Jimmy Carter, because FDR died or had to. No, he didn't die.
Nixon took us off Nixon put us onto the petrodollar, I think, and Carter. Yeah. And that was in the 70s. Exactly. And there was the oil embargo and all that.
And then Carter released the Carter Doctrine, saying that if you go into the Middle East, we're going to have to put our foot in your ass. Well, like, that wasn't a coincidence, people. Literally, we've been there just because of oil. And it's because literally, why do you think we can't go? You know, it would be actually more profitable, infrastructure-wise, in almost every conceivable way, for us to go to alternative energy, renewable energy.
Yep.
Every conceivable way. Guess what happens if you do that? Our dollar is not worth shit anymore, and they have no immediate solution for it. On top of that, we can try to shift holistically to just straight renewable energy, but then guess what? Apex is going to put their foot in our ass, and we can't shift fast enough, unfortunately, now, because we've been bullshitting on it so much. So if we try to do a complete and total shift and put them and throw them under the bus, you're going to collapse an entire region of the world. They know it's coming, because they've all actually been diversifying the way they do business, which is why a lot of the Middle Eastern countries like Dubai, Jordan, and Qatar have been, and even Bangladesh and a lot of them, Pakistan, they've been liberalizing, becoming more Western, because they have to diversify their businesses. But so even they know it's coming. But if we just jumped off of it, oh no, we're going to feel the heat from everybody, because there are a lot of countries that rely on that. Even us still. Why do you think we're still fracking?
Yeah, I think our only hope is, I think it's China's trying to do this one belt, one road, so it's like other countries are realizing that the US dollar isn't going to be in charge forever because of inflation. Like, we're not doing well. We've spread ourselves too thin, and, maybe the tariffs thing will work a little bit, but you're right. We totally need a whole new green infrastructure, clean energy, and instead we've gone and invaded countries. Why do you think we went into Libya? The whole thing over and over again. We can't just keep on toppling countries.
It's a clear pattern. Yeah. It's a clear pattern. I don't know how people haven't. Literally, we're using the same excuse every time. Oh, that specific person in that specific region is a tyrant. We should do something about it. But what about Kim Jong-un? We should go. Nah. No, come on, man. Don't do that. Why you talk about that for? Okay, so let me think of who else we got. We had Kim Jong-un. We could have done Venezuela we pretended like it was about toppling their gut, that it was about getting rid of Hugo Chavez, and it was never about that. It was about controlling their oil supply. Actually, because I think they have the largest oil supply in South America. So it was always about that, which is the whole case that's was supposed to happen. I don't know if it actually ended up happening, but there was a case in Haiti about Clinton using the Haitian government essentially to funnel and launder the Venezuelan oil money supply. So it's always been about controlling resources, And if you can control the resources, you control the power. Why do you think America has had power for so long? Because we have, the landscape wise, the most resources. I think the only group that's our country that's a competition for us there is Brazil. Guess what the fuck we did to them? We got them some free trade. We liberated their asses and like, yeah, nah, y'all can sell this and grow this and that's it. And if you grow anything else, we're gonna punish you. We keep fucking with their economy, which is why their inflation is like, like, but they have, if you think about it, almost the exact same economic, socioeconomic, racial, resource, like they have almost the exact same makeup as us. Why the hell can't they catch up? It's not because they're not as smart as we are. Like, it's because we are actively facilitating in their suppression. That's why. So yeah, it's bad. We're corrupt. It's so, I love my country, which is why I feel like we got to talk about this. Like, I feel like anybody, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you have to, because you love your country and you know the potential of it. But at the same time, holy shit, we are horrible. We are horrible. And it's like almost no point to it, because we can end world hunger. And when people aren't hungry, they're you know what I'm saying? When people aren't hungry, and did you know this? The more profit that families make, the less kids they have. They don't want to have kids because you want to go spend your fucking money on yourself. But poor families, and this is historic, poor families have always had more kids because you need the labor, you need the extra money in the house, you know, like in American society, the more kids you have, the less money you have, the more welfare you get. So like, there's no incentive to not have more kids if you're poor. When you reach a certain level of income, you're like, shit, it's starting to rack up, man. I don't get none of that welfare. Like, all my kids want to go to Ivy League because their little rich ass friends want to go to Ivy League. Like, you know, I can only afford one Ivy League. You know, so it's crazy. It sucks. The last thing, you know, I want to cover is, like 15 minutes. But yeah, so the last thing I want to cover is the fact that Rex Tillerson is out of the picture. Which is great, because he definitely tried to reignite the Syrian war with no reason other than his reasons were stupid. He just, you can even, did you ever see the interview of him at Stanford?
No.
That's when he announced it. Funny enough, it was announced during the government shutdown. That's why the government shutdown probably happened, because nothing changed because of it. If anybody remembers, nothing changed because of the government shutdown. But that was announced, and he was rambling on about, yeah, we're gonna go because I don't know, you know, Assad's dangerous, I guess. He chemically attacked his people, although at that same, like the day before, they admitted that there was no proof of chemical attacks. So then what he then proceeded to say was, well, we're gonna go find proof. That's what we're gonna go do. We're gonna find some proof. Then he said, but even if the Syrian government wasn't dangerous, that's a strategic region. And so as far as Iran is concerned, so we want to make sure that Iran doesn't attack Israel, although Iran has never even tried to attack Israel. Like, once again, there's only one country with a nuclear weapon. And I'm pretty sure it's Israel. So yeah, he just came with a bunch of bullshit. And then eventually he finally came down and said that it was about competition. Like, eventually he got down to it. But Rex Tillerson is a fucking moron, and he's an Exxon, he's like an Exxon giant, isn't he? He either used to work for Exxon or he still does.
Yep, and you know, I guess he was just butting heads with Trump. I guess, like, rumor is that he called Trump a moron at some point, and so just Trump just turns around and fires him, like he finds out through like secondary sources. You know, so
and I think that. So obviously, as Secretary of State, you get a lot of pull that doesn't require the president's approval, per se. Like, they pretty much get the president's stamp on their desk. Is generally how I understand it. And so Rex Tillerson clearly is not nationalist, isolationist like Trump is. Trump is for tariffs. Tariffs are a pretty good idea in our current state. Like our current economic state, and the way our trades work is just not favorable to Americans. And so I understand. And it's not like it's not a little bit favorable, it's actually dangerous to the status of, or the economic status of most working class Americans. So it makes sense. But Tillerson is not that. He wants all that, like he doesn't mind us being thrown under the bus for the globalist agenda, if you will. And Tillerson is all about war, and Trump is not about fighting wars he can't win, because he likes to be able to say, I won this. And he doesn't want to be known as a president that kind of not really sort of kind of was engaged in some shit and never got finished. That's not the type of person he is. But it is kind of dangerous, the person he brought in, though, because Pompeo is evil.
Yep. Yeah. So you're right. You know, Tillerson was a former oil executive. So, of course, he's going to be like a globalist and, you know, corporatist. But, you know, Trump's putting in Mike Pompeo, and we were just talking about the CIA's influence. And here's Mike Pompeo, director of the CIA, going to be our new Secretary of State. Yeah, like, come on.
That's never good. That's never good, people. It's never good to have anybody who had CIA ever by their name as anybody dealing with foreign policy. Like, wasn't Bush Sr. former director of the CIA?
Yep.
Yeah. That's how that turned out. We haven't finished that war yet, in case y'all are wondering. We are still fighting it. Still 40, 50 years later. Yeah, that's not good. Right? Last time I heard a CIA, other than Bush, the last time I heard a CIA director, last two times, I heard a CIA director publicly speak about anything, it was to admit that they have people in office in media actively propagandizing so that they can make sure that the people don't believe anything. In fact, this quote was, we know what, we had our job, we've done our job when Americans don't believe anything they read. So that was one. And there was John Brennan, who was in charge of a disinformation campaign. He's currently in charge of a disinformation campaign. Now he has a job on CNN or MSNBC. Yeah, it's so fucking awesome, right?
A coincidence.
Yeah, huge coincidences. And there's Bush, speaks for himself. And then now we have Pompeo in office. Pompeo is the same one who I don't know. I think Mike might have been appointed by Trump to be CIA director. So that could be a little interesting, because if he was appointed by Trump to be CIA director, because he was like a no-name congressperson from like Kansas, like nobody knew who he was. He's never done anything significant. He just was a part of the Tea Party. He was racist as hell, Islamophobic as hell. He said actually that Muslims are mostly complicit in terrorism, which is so ironic because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what right-wing Christians are.
And the CIA.
And the CIA, right? But I think that Trump picked him for the CIA because he was controllable. And in fact, Mike Pompeo, now, we got to be objective. He was the one in charge whenever Trump pulled the CIA out of Syria, and he did not fight back Trump on that. So from that part, if he could be, it looks like this is part of Trump's attempt to go back to isolationist nationalist type of administration, like he was campaigning on, versus this fucking, because Rex Tillerson, all the people that were appointed before, I don't think he appointed them. Like, it was kind of like an Obama situation. He's like, oh, fuck, I just remember something. I ran for president. I have no idea who should be in charge of anything. I have no idea who you people are. So all his little friends were in the Democratic Party, if you recall, and they left. He's new to the Republican game. So, but with Mike Pompeo, seemed like the exact type of person that Donald Trump would appoint. No-name congressperson, Tea Partier, Islamophobic as hell, but I can control you because you had no clout before. I just want you to do what I say. So
yeah, good thoughts on that. I hadn't really thought about Pompeo. I was also wrapped up in like the side notes, since Pompeo is leaving the CIA, the new current deputy director of the CIA is now a woman. So now they're touting, oh, look, we're so diverse now. Gina Haspel's woman going to be the first CIA director, and she's been known for operating torture black sites and torturing people and being proud of using enhanced interrogation. Equality. Equal opportunity torture now. So
you're not with her. You're sexist. I just want you all to know.
Yeah.
You're not with her. You're sexist.
So it's a proud day. Women can promote torture too now. So there we go.
Yeah, now women can only be, you know, that's what Hillary Clinton did change. Before it was only men who could be corrupt and get away with it. Now women can too. She shattered that glass ceiling. With that being said, people, we're going to go ahead and finish up. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, as always, thank you, Holly, for coming on. We got some big stuff coming up, by the way, so stay tuned. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the network. You can hit the subscribe button. I don't know, it's probably somewhere down there that you're looking at. But seriously, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you can get updates whenever we post some new material. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, find your balance. Peace.